A new law came into effect in April, and it's one that some parents have waited decades for. There are others that strongly oppose it, especially domestic abuse survivors. I can sum it up in 2 words: joint custody. After a divorce, this is standard practice in many countries. In Japan, not so much. Now, in one of the most significant revisions to Japan's family law in decades, that may begin to change. In this week's edition of Japan Today Spotlight, we'll look at the pros and the cons of this new law. Later in the program, journalist Aki Shibuya joins me again with some first-hand accounts of parents navigating this system. What the new law actually does. Under the new law, divorced parents can choose joint or sole custody with the aim of allowing both parents to remain involved. The revision also strengthens enforcement of child support, including clearer standards when no agreement is reached and stronger powers to seize assets from non-paying parents. A new statutory minimum of 20,000 yen per child per month applies even when no agreement is reached at a divorce. The amount is capped at 80,000 yen per month per child. Under joint custody, both parents are expected to agree on major decisions involving their children. Day-to-day matters can be handled by one parent. If the parents can't agree, the family court then will decide. In cases involving domestic violence or abuse, courts are expected to prioritize sole custody. But concerns have been raised about whether family courts can make such judgments. Some lawyers have described it as watered-down joint custody, reflecting the reality that in countries like the US, the UK, and Australia, shared parenting after divorce is simply the default. The courts must assess both the parent-child relationship and the relationship between the parents. Evidence of domestic violence is not always physical. Hidden threats and intimidation by one partner can be very difficult to prove. According to figures from Kizuna Child Parent Reunion, a Japan-based advocacy group, around 150,000 parents lose access to their children each year due to divorce. In practice, mothers have been granted custody in the vast majority of cases, around 85% according to Nikkei Asia. The sole custody system left one parent behind, making it difficult for them to maintain ties with their children. Divorced foreign parents campaigned for decades to see their kids. Their plight even got the attention of the global media. This led many governments to pressure Japan. The parental abduction issue was brought up during a meeting between former US President Barack Obama and former Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihiko Noda at the UN General Assembly in 2011. The first sign of progress came on April 1st, 2014, when Japan joined the Hague Convention on the Civil Aspects of International Child Abduction. After Japan joined the Hague Convention in 2014, there was some hope among foreign fathers that they could see their children again. But critics say its impact has been limited. According to Japan's foreign ministry, courts handled only 195 cases involving children removed to Japan and 174 cases of children removed from Japan between April 1st, 2014 and March 31st, 2025. Being denied the chance to see your child when you live in the same city is devastating. It's even more so when one parent lives overseas. In some cases, one parent returns to Japan with the child without any prior notice to the other parent. In many countries, that would be considered parental abduction. Legal action across borders remains difficult and often quite costly. Some foreigners have remained living and working in Japan, hoping to see their children who have long since become adults. Unfortunately, some of these parents say that their children don't want to have anything to do with them. Some of these parents allege long-term estrangement influenced by the custodial parent. There are a number of legal firms in Japan that now specialize in parental abduction cases in Japan and abroad. Kizuna Child Parent Reunion is an organization in Japan that supports parents who have been denied access to their children. Its stated purpose is to work toward restoring the human rights of children in Japan so every child can once again enjoy relationships with both parents. That's the broader picture. But behind all of this are real families and very different experiences. Now here's Aki Shibuya, who has been speaking with parents on both sides of this issue.
Not everyone sees this new law as progress. For some, especially survivors of domestic abuse, it raises serious concerns. They argue that joint custody may force them to remain in close contact with their former partners. In March 2026, that opposition became visible on the streets of Tokyo. Around 100 people, mostly women, protested holding balloons symbolizing domestic violence awareness. Some lawyers say concerns are already emerging. In a few cases, they report women receiving messages from former spouses referencing the new law, including threats such as, "I'm going to get joint custody." I also spoke with a Japanese man in his mid-40s who wishes to remain anonymous due to court proceedings. He's been in a custody battle for over 3 years. Under the old system, divorce meant risking losing his son. Now, for the first time, he's seeking joint custody. He has no idea where his son is. He's hoping the new option will finally lead to a settlement rather than a battle over sole custody, but his wife is demanding sole custody and is unlikely to change her position. Critics of the new law point out that if a child has had a bad relationship with either parent before the divorce, joint custody would not be in the child's best interests. Chiho Tanaka fled financial and psychological abuse by her former husband. She is now a local assemblywoman who heads a support group for single parents. In an interview with news agency AFP, she said, "Psychological abuse tends to be disregarded by Japanese courts. I seriously doubt that court mediation officials with low awareness of domestic violence can truly see it for what it is." A Japanese language film was recently screened in Tokyo opposing the new law. Titled Mayday Rain, it combines a fictional story of a woman leaving an abusive marriage with documentary footage and real cases. I went to see it and stayed for the talk session afterward. The journalist who spoke, Keiko Hamada, made a point that stuck with me, that financial independence is one of the strongest protections a woman can have going into or coming out of a difficult marriage. In a country where the gender wage gap is still among the widest in the developed world, it's an issue that needs to be addressed along with this new law.
Thanks, Aki. That sounds like a very powerful film. It sounds like there's a very intense opposition to this new law from the people that you've talked to. Are you sensing that that's the case?
Well, for sure. What I saw in the film was an honest portrayal of what sometimes goes on behind closed doors. And I can totally understand how a woman can be traumatized after being in an abusive and suffocating relationship.
Really does feel like two different realities. On one side, there's safety concerns, of course. On the other, there's just fathers who want to spend time with their kids.
Right, and so the two sides remain very far apart for good reason. But this new law might at least give some parents a chance to be heard again, and that could lead to more discussions going forward. My father was not a family man. He was definitely a Showa salary man. But nowadays, I notice so many fathers playing with their children in the park.
That's a good thing to see, and it brings me hope that things are going to change. I'm a child of divorce. It was a different place, a different time, a different system. But man, I know how difficult it can be. Thanks for joining us, Aki. It's been great having you here.
It's been a pleasure.
And from the Japan Today newsroom here in Tokyo, I'm Jeff Richards.
I'm Aki Shibuya.
See us next time.